HaystackColorado.com brings you reliable companies, but also wants to help. If you have a complaint about any company or business, send us a message through the help box right on the homepage of HaystackColorado.com. Haystack Help is made possible by Denver Suzuki, Colorado's #1 Suzuki dealer. Welcome back. If a loved one becomes unable to handle day-to-day financial or medical affairs, someone may have to step in to take care of things. If the incapacitated person planned ahead and signed durable powers of attorney for finances and health care, the person named in those documents can take charge. Attorney John R. Phillips can help you make all the necessary plans for the future. Attorney John R. Phillips is here to talk about guardianships and conservatorships. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chris.
And like we do with every company that we have on Haystack TV and HaystackColorado.com, we do background checks. So I'm going to tell our viewers what we found out about your company. We found that you're a member of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. J.R. Phillips and Associates also belongs to the AARP Legal Services Network, and you are Better Business Bureau accredited with an A+ rating. And since we're going to be talking about guardianships and conservatorships, we should first address, what are they? Because I bet a lot of people really don't know what they are.
Essentially, Chris, what this is the system that we've set up in our society through the courts to be able to manage the affairs of people who can't manage themselves. On one end, you've got minor children. Now, you have minor children.
Yes.
If all of a sudden they were to receive an inheritance from a grandparent directly to them, well, they legally can't take that money.
Okay.
They have to have somebody that can take it forward. So you have to set up through the courts a conservatorship so that money is managed for them and to make sure that nobody exploits their money and takes it away. The other end, you're in part of the sandwich generation, your parents. Now, if one of them becomes elderly, or your grandparents, you'll come down with Alzheimer's, stroke, or just senile dementia, traffic accident, and they can't manage their financial affairs, they can't make good decisions for themselves. Who's going to make the decision? How do we determine, is it you, your brother, your sister, someone else gets that to make the decision? So the system through our court system, and this is generally called sometimes living probate, it's the same courts that would deal with probate after somebody passes away, to be able to determine for someone who needs protection, who gets to make their decisions for them, both on the financial side and also on the medical. And the difference between the financial and medical is the difference between conservator and guardian. A conservator is a person appointed by the court to manage the finances for someone who is technically called the protected person, where the guardian is the person appointed by the court to manage the medical decisions, all the way from where do they live, like with your minor children, or do they get to, if your parents had a stroke, move them into a rehab unit, consenting to a medical plan, and all the way ultimately to the pull the plug decisions that sometimes we have to face with people. So those kinds of decisions are now vested by the court into a conservator and a guardian, who now have to respond, and they're responsible back to the court in a very open, transparent process to make sure that nobody's being abused.
And if you're going to do one, you should really be doing both.
Generally, but not always. I mean, we deal sometimes with some elders who have no assets anymore, but we need to make decisions or qualify them for the Medicaid or other type of things. So we really don't need to get the conservator. We just do the guardianship. And sometimes, like if you were minor children, as parents, you have the right to make medical decisions for your children. But if they were to receive a large inheritance, you may need the right to be able to manage that for them until they turn 21.
Okay, so for someone like myself, I would need to set this up for my kids or my parents to make sure that they're taken care of from both a financial standpoint and a medical standpoint, that I can make those decisions for them.
Well, the guardianship or conservatorship is what happens when you haven't made the plans beforehand to try to give you the authority. So part of a good estate planning is that we're looking ahead, well, this could happen to us, could happen to your children, may very well happen to our parents, and most likely to happen to us at some point in time. How do we make plans now to avoid the problems? And then when someone hasn't done that, then that's when we have to go to court. We've gone to court for people that had adult children that had a traffic accident and they were in intensive care, and no one had the legal right to move them into a rehab or make decisions. We'll have to go to court. That can be solved fairly easy. The ways we avoid going to have the conservatorship and guardianship is, number one, powers of attorney. Everyone over the age of 18 should have powers of attorney, so they name someone, spouse, sibling, parent, someone to make decisions for them in the event of of a medical emergency or a financial situation. Next situation is in your situation with your children. If you're going to leave money to your children, something would happen to you or your wife, you just didn't want to leave it outright. You want to have some terms and conditions in there that someone was going to hold the money, use it for your kids' benefit, but not let them have free, unfettered access at age 18. You might want to have that built into your will, built into your living trust. Clearly, your parents, who now will be looking at making an inheritance to you or to their grandchildren, would want to have those kind of thought processes built into theirs. So we plan around it several different ways in how is our money going to go if we're in control of it, and then what's going to happen in the event we have this unexpected intrusion of our mortality, whether an accident or illness or something else.
And what happens then if I don't plan ahead, if I didn't do this?
Then you would need to come to someone like myself, and then we would go to court. We have to go through the whole court process to get you appointed as a conservator and guardian, and that takes a bit of time. And then once you're appointed, then we have to have an annual reporting to the court so the court knows that you've been doing it correctly.
Well, it really sounds like you should take care of this on the front end so you don't have to worry about it on the back end. It's probably a lot less expensive and a lot less painful.
Oh, absolutely. Vaccines are always less expensive than trying to cure a disease. But if you have the disease, we do have the methodology to be able to take care of it.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to tell people how they can get a hold of you. This is, again, great information. You always give us great information. I'll tell everyone how they can get a hold of you to plan right now for the future. Thanks so much for being here.
Okay.
Failing to plan for yourself or a loved one can have serious consequences. If you need to set up a guardianship or a conservatorship, call J.R. Phillips and Associates today. Their number is 303-741-2400 or visit their website, jrphillipslaw.com. Their number again is 303-741-2400. J.R. Phillips and Associates paid for this segment. We all love to save money. Coming up, we speak to Jake Jabs, owner of American Furniture Warehouse. He tells us how he saves you money on all of your furniture purchases.